Black Vassar alumni so generously elected their time to share their experiences with life before, after, and beyond Vassar from a racialized lens. First, Dr. Aluko Hope, whom graduated in 1990 with a double major in Hispanic Studies and Biological Sciences. He was the vice president of his sophomore class and student academic executive chair his junior year. He went on to become a doctor of medicine at the University of Pennsylvania's medical school. Moving on to the class of 1980, starting with Mr. Michael Nasso. He graduated with a psychology major and a strong interest in political science. After Vassar, he went to the University of Denver's Stern College of Law. He eventually founded the Nasso Group, an agency representing television journalists. Lastly, fellow class of 1980, Miss Donna Walker, graduated with a major in political science but dabbled in international relations, art history, and drama. She was the first Black president of the Vassar Student Association. She currently works with administration and students in college. Each alumni had unique experiences at Vassar, comprising a vast wealth of knowledge and perspective. Entering college, every student undergoes a transitional phase. Black students adjust to constantly being in a predominantly white racial climate, where you go to class, eat, and even sleep. This can often feel constricting and overwhelming. Many times, Black students in white institutions can go a day with the only Black face they see being a mirror's reflection. Donna Walker describes her feelings once coming to Vassar.
I wasn't the most confident high school student, but I think I was coming into my own by my senior year of high school. So when I went off to college, I have to admit, I probably spent the first semester walking around thinking that somebody was going to jump out of the bushes and say, "You don't belong here," academically. And then I shared that with people from my orientation group, the RA group that we belonged to. And we were all mixed, white, Black, Asian. Everybody had the same, thought.
Okay.
So it was kind of nice to know I wasn't the only one thinking that.
Dr. Aluko Hope's transition was far different, considering his own Afro-Latino background.
For the most part, I grew up identifying as a Black person, but not specifically as an African American. Like, I don't think, so I think I was very new to this notion of being a minority. Guyana, we're Afro-Guyanese are sort of, they're not the majority, but they're not a minority either. We're just kind of part of the fabric of society. There's nothing special about, So, although there is still a history of slavery, but there isn't sort of a white majority that you're sort of interacting with on a regular basis. So, I was very new to the whole concept of sort of being aware of my minority status.
The way you experience Vassar as a student can depend on participation in extracurriculars and activities. Both Donna Walker and Dr. Aluko were active in the political life on campus. Donna Walker's trailblazing position as VSA president paved the way for future Black students and also opened the doors to the Black community on campus. At Vassar, liberal and radical views predominate. Often students discover or refine their views of the world, their political positions, and come to terms with their identities. Race, sex, and gender, and many more topics normally taboo are discussed on a much more regular basis, opening the platform for innovation and ideals. For Dr. Aluko Hope, he found a place to explore his sexuality.
I remember feeling like I was freer at some point within the 4 years of Vassar. Like, I started to do things like, this is going to sound horrible, but it's sort of like things like cursing, things like expressing political opinions freely, and even having a political opinion, things like coming to terms with my sexuality and being able to call it. I remember having, first it was bisexual, and then it was, and sort of just being able to sort of name those things about yourself, and then sort of, so I think in that sense, there was tension coming back home because I was definitely becoming a different person. I don't think I walked around on campus as a gay Black man at Vassar. I walked around on campus as a nerdy pre-med who was focused on his work.
Being Black and a student. Solely dealing with the pressure of performing well at Vassar is more than enough. However, the added impact of your Blackness can often weigh heavily. You're aware that racial biases can impact objective grading. that your voice is not as valued in the classroom and beyond?
I think he's still a professor there. Someone in the English department was at best condescending, and I'm trying to think of. I'm trying to remember if I think I was the only black student in that class, and it was an uphill battle trying to write papers for this guy. And I suffered through it. And I didn't turn to anybody in particular because I didn't know what to do.
Not knowing is a common difficulty of dealing with racism in the workplace. Not knowing whether critique is racially charged or genuinely given. Not knowing how to respond and confront authorities.
Southern professor of English. And I don't think he singled me out, but he was hypercritical of my writing. He called it purple prose, and I never actually agreed with him. So I don't know if that is educational or racial.
While on such an isolated campus with such a small black community, the relationships between black students can be extremely important. In the cases of each alumni, they found that they had a mixed group of friends, and attributed this to the racial climate at the time, the intersectionality of their sexuality and race, and feeling safe in most spaces on campus. For Michael Nasso, transitioning into Vassar, he did not feel the need for a black affinity space. Instead, he felt the racial and social climate at the time had a much more empathetic approach compared to the apathy of today.
I wasn't really into the groupism concept, black student union versus, injecting yourself into the overall society. It didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I would use the organization today, but I didn't feel the need for it back then. But I never found those circumstances to really affect me so much back then.
Intersecting identities can at times cause a conflict. For Dr. Luco Hope, he felt more accepted within the predominantly white LGBTQ community. A majority of this had to do with the sexual climate at the time, as Donna Walker explains, considering the rise of HIV/AIDS awareness.
There was kind of a backlash against queer people for the simple reason the AIDS crisis was also just gearing up. And that meant, I've had a lot of friends die during that time period, going into the 90s. I can't tell you the number of memorial services and funerals that I've been to.
In conclusion, they each took away positive experiences from their time at Vassar. However, they each recognized the poor racial climate of America and Vassar today, attributing the discord and tension to the rise of apathy. They stand in solidarity with the black students on Vassar's campus.
Black Lives Matters, that shouldn't be happening right now. And yet it is